21. Okay.
Ron Burgundy.
Call to order. Disclosure of pecuniary interest under the Municipal Conflict of Interest Act. Everybody's got any? Motion to go into close. We don't have it. Open. Minutes for the previous meeting. Items. Resolution here we go. I think this is it. Moved by Deputy Mayor Bliss, second by Councillor Elliott. The Minto Council convenes in the committee of the whole to conduct budget deliberations. All in favor? Okay. And I'll introduce the budget. Hope everybody's had a chance to read through it a little bit. I believe the staff are here and they're going to present on an individual basis the budget today. So if there's a lot to hear any questions, ask them. But I think they've done a really good pack check. On behalf of Councillor Caldwell, couldn't be here today, but she perused the budget on Friday and sent me a note, and also talked to the treasurer today and CEO about anything she had on it, and she just wanted me to pass on to the staff and Gordon, Bill, what a great job she thought we did on the package.
All right.
That's
I
Chair.
think we should go through it before
I'll add mine to this. I think each year we're getting a fuller package with a lot of good, interesting charts and that type of stuff. So I'm happy with it. Doesn't mean we have to totally agree with it, but we're happy with what we've got from us.
Well, then it sounds like it's gonna be a zero tax increase, and is that what it sounds like?
Well, yes, did you read it there? Anyways, there are some updates. Did you get your, everybody got their updates? Okay. I think I'll just turn it over now to Bill, to yourself.
Thank you, Mayor Bridge. I'll stand up for this part. A little different.
Yeah.
You'll recognize some of this presentation, but I thought I'd stand up for this. Gordon's going to do the key figures part at the back, which will give you a better picture of our finances right now. But I'll do the introduction part. Those are our two budget days as scheduled today. We'll go from 1:30 till no later than 5, I would expect. Usually you take 3 hours or so to do your operating budgets, given the way we presented it to you the last 3 years that I've been involved with Gordon. Our presentation shouldn't take any longer than 20 minutes. We're expecting Councillor Turton to be here anytime now. So at the bottom of that, you see the format for day 2. When we come back in January, we'll have a lot better idea on the actual for 2013. We'll do any adjustments to the operating budgets through you at that time, and we'll then get into the capital budget. So you should have a good 3 hours to discuss that next meeting. What you'll see today is since you're in committee of the whole, we'll keep you in committee of the whole. We won't ratify anything here today. So the ratification won't happen until you've had your public processes, and that'll likely be March or so. Last year we had a public open house before a council meeting from 5 to 6:30. I think we had a handful of people there, but council will want to think about that in the next 2 meetings as to whether you want to do that or something different, or how you want to handle that. I think it was a good public relations gesture. The other good gesture is to have the meetings on open council for everyone to watch on TV if they wish to do so. Always like to have a few quotes. They can mean whatever you want them to mean. First one's an Irish proverb. You've got to do your own growing no matter how tall your grandfather was. Nothing is particularly hard if you divide it into small jobs. That's Henry Ford. This one, Robert and Richard Sherman. When a baby spider tries to trap a fly, oftentimes the silken thread will come awry. Though a tangled web is all that you can claim, it's a step in the right direction all the same. Well, Robert Sherman is actually Bobby Sherman, so that's a Disney.
Yeah, very nice.
If you recognize it, you're a little older than I am.
Anything about a lighthouse or anything?
No lighthouses this time. But the last quote is our theme, and I thought that the tangled web, I mean, sometimes we have a bit of a tangled web with the province and how we deal with things, but we've had a couple of positive funding announcements. So while we may have a tangled web, we certainly have at least a web to show for it. So we're moving forward with our budget this year. We're one of the few that maybe has benefited from some of those readjustments. And some of the charts that Gordon brings to you later on will explain why we're benefiting. So it's not because, well, it's primarily related to our assessment being so well. Here's a bit of an economic backdrop. I provided this to you last year. It has changed a little bit. The unemployment rates are down nationally and provincially in and around 6.8 and 7.9. Our unemployment rate is around 4 still. That, in my way of thinking, there's experts who know a lot more than I about it, but that's full employment, basically. That doesn't mean that people are in the right jobs that suit their skills and that kind of thing, but you know, there's a lot of competition here about getting jobs, or about finding the right people for jobs. Cost of living won't be confirmed until December, but we expect it to fall within 1 or 2%. That the October CPI comes out in December. So our policy in terms of pay is that we bring that report to you in December and you decide whether there's a cost of living increase or not for the staff. That's not provided for in that the budget figures you have. So any of the wage increases are resource allocations or grid movements. There's no cost of living built into that. Provincial deficits miraculously are almost cut in half. So it must be an election coming or something, I don't know. Federal deficits listed now at 10.2 when we reported to you last year was 20 billion. Provincial deficit 9.2 now reporting at 5.6. That, I mean, again, the experts will tell you what that means, but I guess I could say there seems to be progress. But the issue is, long term, how will that affect our budgets? This year it's been good for us, but the vast majority of municipalities are facing a decrease in some of their funding. Except when they offset the upload of certain services at the county level, then that makes a difference. The provincial growth estimates from the CMHC are around 2.4%. I guess that's in gross national product, so it's moderate growth today. Really, for all the things I hear when you go to AMO and you hear the economists speak, that's likely the way of life for the foreseeable future. Still reporting 270 times to the province, so that in the terms of asset management, green energy, accessibility, source water, those are still high labor-intensive activities. On the other hand, they're giving us nearly $1.4 million a year to help us out with those things. In terms of housing forecast, 68,000 housing starts projected in 2013. They had actually projected 64,000 last year at this time. So, and they're basically flattening out the housing starts for 2014. So in terms of where our building statistics are, the fact that they're kind of flat is not surprising. That's what's happening nationwide. There are, as we all hear, the hot market here and there, Toronto and so forth, but generally we're in a pretty flat to moderately growing market here. Housing prices nationally have gone up, but from 398,000 to 404, that's almost double what the average house price is here. Probably more than double, Gordon, I would think.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, for sure.
This is your favorite slide, all of you. We have now a strategic plan. This sets the context for our budget. Of course, this is your new strategic plan that you approved this year. It has a new vision, mission, actions in it. From that comes the official plan, which is at the county level, and that's also updated this year, again with a 5-year review, and that has just been approved. Council cannot take any action contrary to the official plan, and the official plan must be consistent with provincial policy. And then underneath that are all the other plans that we do from time to time. Most of them are fairly well up to date. In terms of the far right, we have roads needs study that's due to come in any time, and that will be helpful for the capital budget. That's likely where your asset management plan would sit, around in that box over there. We have the fire master plan, the financial plans such as the DWQMS plan we did in 2012, the culture plan, and the integrated community sustainability plan. And those are the things that fall out into the business plans. When I call them business plans, those are really the cover sheets on each of the budget areas. That's a mini business plan. So that's where that all sits. So we attempt to implement those plans when we're preparing our budget for you. There's our new vision: a friendly, safe, affordable, family-oriented rural community built on a foundation of respect, volunteerism, and prosperous business, and sustained by people who value neighborliness, fairness, and inclusiveness. That's our lighthouse in the distance. Our mission, how we operate day to day, that guides us toward that lighthouse. We provide cost-effective and responsive local government through superior customer service, internal stability and efficiency, and promoting responsible economic growth, healthy lifestyles, and respect for the natural environment. Those are the business areas of your new strategic plan. Won't go through them in detail. You know the plan very well. It's many of those action items we're dealing with every day. Municipal culture plan, those are some of the values in the cultural plan. Many of them loop right into the strategic plan. Creativity and culture are foundations for building a prosperous and sustainable economy. Culture is essential to making Minto a place where people want to live, work, and play. Cultural resources and activities are essential to building a vibrant downtown, etc. Just to use an example, you find in the economic development budget $30,000 for a business incubator, which is a creative economy incubator. We've been discussing at the economic development level. That's come forward to council. That's implementing aspects of the municipal culture plan. There are strategies in the plan here. The cultural roundtable, of course, is your main reporting instrument in terms of implementing the plan. Integrated sustainable community plan. You'll hear mentioned in the report, I think in the water section, where we really haven't taken that bull by the horns and started to make points about where we're implementing that plan. I think we should look again at that in 2014. Things related to downtown, agriculture, fiscal and ecological responsibility, main streets. I mean, we are doing all those things. I mean, we have a new Trees for Farm initiative that met last week. We're doing floodplain mapping in terms of the ecology. We've got our facade program in the downtowns and main streets. So we are doing these things. We just haven't reported to you on how we are as part of the ISCP. And of course, the fire master plan, the fire chief has specifically mentioned in this section of the budget how he's implementing the fire master plan that we approved in 2012. And there's its mission statement and its core values to commitment, community service, integrity, professionalism, teamwork, and trust. There's where your tax dollars are distributed. Remember, I think we had an excellent presentation by Eileen and the kids were here running council about where the cents and dollars were, and how small out of the overall that you get. So 37 cents on every dollar comes to this municipality. That's up a little bit from last year. And 1% on your budget is about $40,000. Of course, the county receives about 47%. Almost half of the money that comes in is directed to Wellington County for the services they provide, and 16% on education. There's the net budget. So when you take our 37 cents out of each dollar, how it breaks down. So the cents are even smaller when you get down into those works. But a good chunk of our budget is public works,
Very good, chance.
and fire, so forth.
A quick question, back to the breakdown of the counties. Is there any way that we can get a big percentage of that pie from the county or not? Like I said, they're working with a lot more money than we're actually getting. It would be nice for us to have that extra money to put in our communities.
Most of the reason that we're like that is the way our assessment sits relative to the others. So the question is, are you getting a fair share of what's coming out of the county? Getting policing and guard protection, and economic development at the regional level and some other things, you know all about that. So one of the main asks we had this year, I think is going through economic development, is in the area of helping with our downtowns and helping match grants and things like that. So I think there are ways of doing it, and we do get some response. We get some back in the area of roads maintenance and things like that. But is there any way? There's no easy way of changing that. That will always pretty much be like that.
But actually, on the formula, we probably, to be right on this board, we probably get the highest percentage.
Yeah, over the years, our percentage of the total county budget has declined, and it's all assessment related. Like this whole, once you get to passing the budget, the county passes it, it's an mechanical process. It's just a pro rata of your assessment. In the south end, your assessment is going at a much faster rate than ours have. Like, for example, like Christmas, I could say 472 to 570. We've gone from like 182 to 194. So we put in more thought and less dollars. But as the mayor says, the way to do it is to lobby the various committees to make sure that we're getting our share. With the improvements to the library and things like that.
Well, I
Yeah.
understand all that. I'm just saying that we asked to put 40%, and if they could drop theirs to that, like 44. And I'm just saying, it'd be nice for us to have a little bit more full cash here in the municipality to fund some projects that we would like to do too. Or you disagree, George?
Well, I was just commenting the fact that I get slammed at county council all the time because we pay the least amount in. And service-wise, whether we get more service or not, I mean, that gets into it. But I have some of the southern mayors, they get into this whole scenario about, why doesn't the north take more of the county budget? They want to go the other way. And to try to, it's sort of like, I guess I look at it like impact. There's no perfect world, but in this world we're living in right now, it's probably more beneficial to us the way they do it now. Correct me if I'm wrong, Board, than if they changed it. Because if they changed it, I think we lose, unfortunately. Now, what Bill has mentioned and what we're working at the county level, and I think we're getting some success, and hopefully I can talk a bit more about it in January once the county budget's approved. But we are looking at, as we said, committees, certain committees, and that's economic development, and that we now have at the county level. We might see some money flowing back from that committee to help us in projects that we've initiated. So that's where we can get the money back. And then we're talking not a percentage necessarily, but I think the way they'd like to do it at the county level is, as municipalities that want to step up to the plate with some money, they're able to get a grant process back. So I think we're going to see some wins coming back to us that way, right? But I don't want to get into them until after, because it's right now just they're the county doing their budgets now. As it sits right now, that's in there.
But I just think that the town of Minto brings a lot to the table, and some of the projects that we've been involved in, which the county is now, and some of the other communities are taking over, and we've been the lead in it. Not that we want to attaboy or pat in the back, but I don't know if we should be compensated for some of the time and money that we put into it. I think we've been a leader in the county for a lot of issues.
Well, and I think your area where you're an expert in, because you've been involved in it for many years, is the economic development side of things. And certainly we were a lead there, and now that the county has got an economic development committee structure going, I think we'll see some payback for some of the hard work that we've done. So if you bear with me for about 2 more months, I hope to have some good news on that front. But again, a lot of what we've done, and the other things, accessibility, some of the trail work we've done is a lot of people around this table have put a lot of effort and time into that. So I'm hoping there's a couple of good wins coming back, and I think that's the way I think the county's going to look at it. And the other way the county can help us out is if they keep their overall assessments reasonable, then that allows us to work.
Well, I like what they've been doing too, like with the libraries and some of the other issues around.
Yeah, we'll have another library coming up in 2015 with the Commerce Library and the police building. There's been good activity back to us.
Sorry to try to help this.
No, it's a good question, but I think we're on the positive side. That's
okay.
I think to summarize, our asks are in economic development as far as things coming back, trails, accessibility, we can do that too. there's a few other things.
And the trees for Minto is a new project that we'll be getting some money back from that, from some other committee areas.
Just in terms of our process from here on in, when we get to the operating budget, the mayor will identify each budget by service. We're gonna start with Public Works today just because Brian has a function he has to attend to partway through. The committee discusses as committee of the whole each budget and provides direction to approve, modify, or table. We don't need a resolution from you, you just, the mayor will bring the budget up. If you're happy with it, you don't have to say anything. If you have questions, you just ask. And we have the department head here to answer. They'll provide support information. We're not going to review the sheets with you unless you want us to review the sheets with you. So otherwise, we've got dozens of sheets there. We'll be here till 7 o'clock. So, and we can do that if you wish to do that. But it's been laid out pretty clearly, we think, and it's not perfect. We've issued you a couple new sheets here, and we'll find new things, and we'll have a chance in January to make sure it's spot on. And again, we have to have a discussion about the open house in March. And again, it'll be March 19th and April 3rd. Those probably aren't the exact dates. Somewhere around there. Just a little reminder of how these sheets work. If you wanted to turn to your first sheet in the tab 1 of the CAO, what you have is a cover sheet here on your left. So this is the 2013 budget right there in blue. And that figure should be down in this area roughly. On your sheet behind it. The 2013 actual to date would be right there in brackets. Some of the actuals are as of September. Other department heads were able to drill down in their budgets, so they'll have a more recent actual, so that will be right in here. Then they'll have the initiatives, increases or decreases following here, and that'll give you a proposed 2014 budget. In here we have issues as to why the budget may be over or under. In that paragraph, then issues for 2015 and beyond, some things the department heads see that we need to address or think about as we move forward with these budgets. And down in here are performance measures. In this case, we have number of meetings for council meetings and so forth. We have recreation bookings, we have marriage licenses, they're all number of fire calls. Those are the kinds of indicators that they give you. And then just below is the budget as recommended by myself and the department head, based on the sheets at this time. And that figure should go in here as well. And then the next 2 years are subsequent budget projections. There's not a lot of crystal balling for those. Just a general thought as to where they might go. So just to give you an idea whether a budget's trending upward or downward. So that's my presentation at this point. If there's any questions on that part,
Couple questions, Bill. You talked about the federal and provincial government, with their budgets. This is just my own personal opinion. I was not elected as a politician here in the community to donate money to charities. And is there any way we can talk to the province and feds about the money that they give away? Like, I'm just saying, if people want to give away to charities, like, I mean, we're talking millions, possibly billions of dollars that our government gives away. And like I said, I don't think I was elected to make donations to different charities for the people. If they want to make a donation, they can do that on their own. Is there any way we can send them a letter or find out who to talk to about the billions of dollars they donate to?
yeah, I mean, maybe we could bring a report back next budget as to what, to look into it a little further. There's no reason that this council's concerned about it. We can't send that kind of letter, but I think the treasurer and I would probably want to do a little bit of research.
And I know it probably won't matter what we send them, but I'm just saying, I think there's a lot of money that goes out of this province, out of this country. I mean, we've got people sleeping in the streets in their own province. So like I said, I don't feel that I was elected to donate to different charities or.
Are you starting talking, Rick, about the matching funds and stuff that like the feds do usually when there's a disaster?
A lot of the charities that they give away to. I can say if I want to donate some money to a cause, I'll do that personally. There's people that want to that can't afford to make donations to charities, different funds like that. And I'm just saying, I think we can.
Would you like us to do bring some information back in January on that. If you wanna do a resolution,
I know you guys are busy, and it's probably won't help, but I'm just wondering to think that the federal government, maybe slow down and giving our money away.
I don't think it hurts if you have a position you wanna take to do it. I think, this council, ahead of many, commented regularly on the source water protection plan implementation, and I think we made a difference. In terms of funding, in terms of how they rolled that out, in terms of the work that was done between when we were complaining and when they are going to approve these plans. I will always encourage you to make those comments if it's something on this council's mind. We would just like a chance to frame it for you so everyone can understand.
No, great, but I just thought if you guys want to do that, once we get the budget done, we can look into that later. What do you think, your worship?
Sure, that's no problem. I think we'll let the staff look into it. I, off the top of my head, I don't know how much they actually do. I mean, and where it comes from. There's different ministries and whatnot, so I think there's a little bit of research to do there from that.
I'm taking up too much of your time, so let Gordon go on with the indicators on our budget here.
Okay. So we had a meeting with Mayor and Councilor Caldwell a couple months ago. And this comes from a seminar I attended probably a couple of years ago. And I think we're all familiar with looking at private business statement. Basically, this is trying to take ratio analysis from the business world and apply it to the municipal world. And so the mayor just kind of wanted to show it with the numbers, but we also converted, so Jackie Chung converted them to charts. I think they're a bit more readable, but again, if you have any questions, let me know.
I just like to say at this time, it's great to have the charts, because I think visual really works, because when you're stricken in numbers, you're trying to visualize just what you got in front of you. So I think this is a great thing, especially for the public as well, so they can sort of see it rather than try to.
And the trends just kind of jump out at you too. So the first one is discretionary reserves as a percentage of taxation. So that's where you're trying to look at a total reserve compared to our tax levy. And where possible in all these charts, we try to put in a benchmark so we can kind of compare ourselves. So right now we're sitting at 121% of taxation sitting in reserves. Good. We have been higher, we have been lower, but the average is 64%. So on the whole, that's a great indicator.
Yes.
Gordon, what's a benchmark?
64%.
That's the Ontario.
No, I know, I realize that's the provincial, but what's something that we should aim for so that, when we have an infrastructure, situation, that those reserves, we can feel comfortable that those reserves are going to look after that?
Well, in a perfect world, this is what we want to
That's
do.
what I'm looking, I know that's what.
And that's like, say, 15 years. Well,
Yeah.
what we want to get at, I think most people, it's up to the council today, is to reduce our reliance on external borrowing and be able to self-finance.
Absolutely.
Because then we're the masters of our own house, right?
Exactly.
We can't afford to do that in a year or 5 years or whatever. I think that's what we're trying to get to. Like, the example is Chris and his master plan, Alan and his arena plan.
Correct.
That's what they're trying to do, and that's again what the asset management is trying to get you to do. Not saying you don't borrow, but you have control over the borrowing, and I think that's what this budget tries to do too. But that's kind of your long.
So what percentage? Get back to my
I
question.
don't know, Gus.
What percentage would be a good benchmark to aim for?
100%.
Yeah.
Or 150%.
150% is what I.
Would be something, but recognizing that your average municipality is only at 64,
Yeah.
so.
I understand.
And I think, to take your question? Well, I think the difficulty, and we've been hammering on people, is the fact that the way we're given money, it's very difficult for us, and you'll see from the budget that we're putting away X number of dollars in our budget every year for reserve. But we only have, the only thing we get for sure every year from the feds is the $270,000 gas tax. We've been saying to the provinces, we need that same kind of structure. And then we could get to that 150 easier because we would have sustainable funding. Right now, unfortunately, we go in this lottery all the time about our capital. And so I think that that behooves the point when you see an average in Ontario of 64%, is the fact that we're barely, the municipalities are really keeping their head above water because they have to wait. The only way they do capital projects, large capital projects now, is by getting into the grant business and hope they get a grant. So that's the difficulty. So I think that's why I like these things, and maybe when Gord goes through them all, you'll have a good feel. Terry?
I just wondered, Gord, would you have any idea what the percentage would be at the county level? And we keep hearing about something like $60 million in reserve.
Yeah,
County
I know that
going
Wellington,
back to
yeah,
Councillor Henley's concern.
Wellington County has really built up the reserves. I think when I started, their reserves were, I'm saying like 15 million or so, now they're 70 or so.
I think it'll be close to 75.
Yeah.
Having said that, their budget is $780,000, or no, 780 million a year.
Yeah.
So it always seems like a lot, but when you talk to the county and you say if they had to, if they had no money coming in from other sources or whatever, or they had to start to have a few years of bad economics, they need those reserves. But I mean, they're all in different spots too.
Yeah, like if the county say is 10 times bigger than us, and they might be closer to 12.
Yeah.
And if we have roughly 7, so 75 is not.
It's not as, it seems like a lot of money, but it's because their budgets are like 10 times ours, right?
Yeah.
Well, to me, $75 million is a lot of money.
Well, it is.
Yeah. And then the next one, the more of an analysis of the reserves, and where they are of own source revenue. So again, that's looking at the revenue. And again, we're sitting around the 55% or so. And the average is 45. You get into things like water and sewer, and we're in good shape right now as far as reserves go. The next one is like debt servicing. So, wow, Councilor Henley was talking about the federal and provincial government. So, even when we thought relatively highly extended, it was only 3.3% of our budget was going to debt interest. We're now a little over 2. We know in the next year that's going to go up a bit, but maybe we'll be at 2.5%. And then debt to reserve, again, you want that number, a lower number is better. So that's comparing your debt to your reserves. So again, we come down a lot with water and sewer excluded, and then we include sewer. We're higher, but again, the trend shows when the chart is down. That's a positive. Comparing $100,000 in assessment, the limitation is $100,000 5 years ago than it is today, but still it's a some limitation. So we're now at $826 per capita. So if we liquidated the town, each 100,000 we pay that debt. Now, if we come to one that's not so favorable, and I think we've talked about this in the past, is we're carrying more receivables, and that's why I complain about being in cash crunch, even though on paper it may look good. Our receivables are going up, and we know there's certain properties that contribute to that, but it's a bit of a concern. Being able to virtually eliminate bad debts in water and sewer, but the way we've done that is we put some of the charges and taxes. So it does, it's a bit of a concern.
Now, having said that, what's our risk factor on those? Because
our risk factor is extremely low.
Yeah, because if you understand, if we put it on taxes, we have to be in a non-equity position if we have to force a sale. So it's just that unfortunately, as you realize that it takes a long time to force a tax sale. We never want to go there, but when we're forced to go there, it still takes a long time. Like, so it's one of those situations where it looks bad. But I did look in behind the numbers with Gordon. I think I'm not too worried from a risk standpoint. We're not out there losing more money. It takes time to collect it. Okay.
Is there a reason for that?
Well,
Number
part of it
increasing?
is like our economy as a whole, and I think it has been all over. We're in a great economy, but it's not necessarily spread evenly. So there's still some people in the community are having a tough time. Like there's no doubt about it, And I don't think that's been a huge factor. I don't think that really explains it. In terms of ours, like our our base is getting bigger, but certain properties need to see these results a bit in percentage terms, so that is one of the things. But in terms of effort, like, again, we look at how much we collect, well, we're the agent for the boards of education and the county. So we still have to pay our bills quarterly. We have to collect from the ultimate customer, so we're the collection agent here too, so.
I think I brought this up last budget, I think we should get a fee for that.
I'm sure not gonna disagree.
It's a lot of work, a lot of, we bill a lot of time towards collecting that money.
Yeah.
And then we turn around and give it to Board of Education in the county, and we don't get reimbursed for that time.
The only problem with that is then, Gord, then they will turn around and
We
go
do.
public, right? So it's like they talked about like Union Gas and Bell, everybody using our boulevards for their lines and that. For us to charge them, well, then they put it back on the public, right? And so then they pay more and
Consumer
it's
taxpayer
kind
pays it.
of double-edged sword, right? So,
And just one, how do we compare, do you know, to other municipalities with respect to that number?
I think we're average, maybe a little higher. Where you don't see an average is because we couldn't find one, so we couldn't get one, but, I think around 10%.
Just one other point too, or like, even though we collect, and if we ever got in a situation where there was a bad debt and we had to write it off, we can, the other two groups have to take the write-off with us. I mean, it's not like we're on the hook for the whole thing.
No.
We are the collector, and I agree with Deputy Mayor Fisk. It's too bad that we can't get a fee for that, because it is, but I imagine that's going back to legislation and all that stuff. We're kind of hung out to dry.
Look at our HST, look at our.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So anyways,
Yeah. Assessment per capita, this really tells a story about our region. Yeah, so we're going up a small rate. So average per capita, and this should theoretically, take the Toronto's and equalize it. We're sitting at 84, the average is 118. If we're up in Northern Ontario, that figure would be even lower. If we were able to GPA would be higher, so. Anyway, that gives us a bit of maneuvering, and that's why you can't just look at tax rates and things like that. It's all influence.
If I could just have a word on that one, because I think if you look at it this way, the cost to run this operation here with such a low assessment is essentially the same as Bushland or Aaron or any other place where it's quite a bit higher than that. You pay about the same for staff, maybe a little bit less in some cases, maybe a little bit more, but to buy a truck or to buy a service costs us essentially the same. So that, when a lot of the times the issue you have with people is they say, well, I have a property elsewhere, your rate is way higher. Well, it is higher, but our assessment's quite a bit lower. So if you took the average house here and compared what they paid anywhere else in Wellington, the average house, it's quite a bit lower. So now that assessment hurts us, and that's the one that sort of everyone sees, and they don't quite make that connection for them to help them understand. So our cost of doing business is the same as everyone else, and they have the higher base to take.
All very true. And this is one of our first ones from our asset management. This is asset consumption. So this is how much we're using our fixed assets, how we're consuming them. So we have a road and it has, 20-year useful life and we're in year 12. So we're consuming that roadway. So it kind of shows you, yeah.
Would you compare that like to our personal businesses as a depreciation?
Yes, this is
Right.
this is depreciation. So again, we've got all brand new assets. You have a low number here, you have a high. So it kind of shows you that, like over time, as you'd expect, we are using up our assets. So the only way to reverse that trend is to somehow increase their capital budget faster than what they're depreciating at. Again, we'd all love to do that, but it's not always possible. So anyway, just having concentrated there. And then a couple of more simple ones that shows our reserves per capita have been increasing over the last few years, and our debt's been coming down. So that's a double positive in this case.
Sure is.
And the last one is our net book value of tangible capital assets per capita. So in theory, again, this is if you broke down the town and you distributed all the assets to each person living here, each person would theoretically have $7,000. And that is based on historical costs, so it's probably about 4 times that in reality. But again, that relates to your asset consumption and what the assets you have. So I think that's the end of the generic part of it. So,
You see that the last part of the tab with your summary report is a Ministry of Finance's letter, missing the first page in that letter. To get that for you. The other, if I may, the other document that we replaced is the summary budget sheet, which would go in page 7 of your summary report. So you have a new one. So the budget as entered now is, has a $128,000 increase, roughly. About coming in at 3%. Budget to budget. So with that, if council's okay, we're going to start public works.
Any questions on those charts? I think just one comment I would have is the last two, which is sort of what, when this council came on board in 2010, we talked about trying to increase our reserves and keep our debts down, and we were able, I think we've been able to do that so far, but it's getting tougher and tougher, for sure.
And just to add to that, to your worship, I think we've been very proactive on a lot of issues in the community. Like look at the money we put in our water, like millions of dollars. And because we're so proactive,
Yes.
we done it before the province even started giving out money. Like we didn't get anything from the province.
Free water towers.
Yeah, like we got nothing for being proactive and due diligence. And I commend council today and past councils for doing that. And just for the numbers that Gordon Bill gave us, we got in pretty good shape for, like I said, for the millions of dollars it is that.
Yeah. And I agree with that, Rick. And the past council, I'm not saying, in 2008, when they had the opportunity to get 2/3 money, I mean, it made sense to go into a bit more debt. And they did, and that was a good move on their part to do that. And that goes back to what I talked about before, sustainable funding. And for us to do this right, we need to have, sort of like the feds, we need to have that 270, we need, 350,000 from the provinces to fix our roads on a regular yearly basis, so we can plan rather than be in this lottery all the time hoping we get a grant. We can't do it. We don't get a grant, we don't do it. So, and then having a situation like 2008 when they pushed all that grant money out at us, and it all went away in profits for the companies because they couldn't do all the work, so they just jacked all the prices up. So
Yeah.
it's unfortunate. Okay. That's my soapbox. Oh yeah, and we have with us, Brian, you want to take over? I'm going to go down here to Public Works, and I've got the first sheet. So what I'll do is I'll just go through the sheets. If you got a question on the sheets, ask them. If not, we'll just move forward from there.
Yep.
Okay. So our first sheet is municipal drains. Okay.
I know it's comment there are issues for 2015 and beyond, that roads and drainage fund is fully allocated to other projects.
That's
Does
correct.
Does that mean eventually we're going to be looking for a drainage inspector, or we're going to continue to use outside sources for that?
Well, we're gonna try to minimize it as much as we can, the best that we can, but at this present moment, things are pretty tight. And I gotta get some things off his shoulders to put it on our, road agent. And that all takes it's a process, so it takes a little bit of time, so. But, we've come a long way.
Is he fully qualified now to
He's
be?
fully qualified, yeah, he has his license and he's fairly comfortable.
Any other questions? Okay, next is road administration.
Any questions?
Well, I guess a lot of these figures are actuals to the end of September, so I'm assuming there's gonna be some large changes. For instance, total revenue, we budgeted 129,000, so far we're at 32,000. So are we close to being online there, or is that going to be?
It's gonna run close. Hopefully, we won't go over on it, but,
It'd be great if we went over on the revenue part of it.
On the revenue. It's gonna be, close on both, so.
So,
The biggest revenue in that one is $80,000 from the county for the county roads, snow removal. That's, so if you look at the roads administration spreadsheet,
Yeah.
sheet 1 of 4, revenue for service, $80,000, we haven't billed them for that yet. So when they pay us that one, then all of a sudden we're up in a lot better shape. And that's the amount that's actually increasing. It's 5,500 per kilometer, that's going up to 500,800. So in there, we reflected that increase in that budget. Sorry, it's actually 65,000. No, it isn't.
Yeah.
65
No, it's not in there. The increase is reflected in there, but in terms of the actual, we
No,
don't have.
actual 225.
So we haven't billed for last winter's, service?
Yes, we have, but
We haven't received the
we
bill?
haven't received anything back.
Does not pay the bills on time?
I don't sign their check there.
Brian, and I'm not sure I'm in the right category. I know, this is an operating budget and we still have to deal with the capital budget. And, you did a reassessment of vehicle needs and we made some changes in that respect. I believe there was some savings projected because of doing your own parking lots and that type of thing. Has that, are you good with your present inventory or, and is that working out?
We are still in the midst of it. It was part of our road needs study
Yeah.
that we do a vehicle replacement program in that. So it's pretty hard to tell until I get that back from them to see. We're not bad, but trucks are dropping off like left, right, and center on us right at the moment, so.
What's that mean?
Yeah, the communities in Bloom Truck, for example, I think it's gonna cost $3,500 to put it back on the road. Ball bearings and, stuff like that, so it's.
You do have 40,000 in reserve for.
Yeah.
For
Yeah,
vehicles.
yeah.
So.
No, I realize, I just want, it was a matter of interest, how, if we had any, I guess, reporting percentages that would enable us to assess whether we did make the right move or not.
Not at this present moment, we haven't gotten back yet.
So then again, if you're talking about the community building, that was like, when that was started, that was a temporary thing, it was not, and now we carried it on, the community building, so I think we need to revisit,
Well, we're not gonna have any choices now, we need a truck for next year, so it's. We gotta keep them moving.
Even if we don't have community room, we still have flowers to water, and we'll probably continue on with that program, so with that, without community room, that would become an area budget item, we could call it,
Yes.
garden.
Yep.
Or whatever. So,
And that's what I want to point out, like, if you look at when these sheets go by, you'll see there's, I believe, for it altogether, we figured out $452,000 worth of reserve going on through with these budgets. So when you see a 3% increase, there's almost a 10%, about 10% increase in reserves that we're putting in these budgets, right? So it's not like we're sort of saying to ourselves, like, okay, we're just trying to get to zero-based budgeting and put nothing away for tomorrow. They're built into all the departments. So you'll see those as you're going through. So I think that's a good situation to have that we're working on.
Yeah, and we're taking over wastewater next year too, so that's, we gotta look ahead.
Yeah. Okay.
Absolutely.
All right.
Good, thanks, Brian.
Anything else? Okay. Good. Next is vehicle cost and allocations.
Any questions?
Terry?
Yeah, I guess when you look at the budget and then the actual, if you see quite a discrepancy there, there's obviously something, either we don't need the vehicle or we need another one or whatever. I guess the first one I'm looking at is the 2012 Western Star, number 42.
Yes.
Actual to date is $2,700 or $2,370, and we budgeted $25,000.
But we don't have the full year on that yet.
So you're going to get to the 25,000 in the next 3 months, or?
That's what we're hoping.
I think a little bit of that, the Western Star is the new one, that didn't get
That's a brand
online.
new tandem truck.
It did, I don't think it got online last year in the spring, so it never had any work.
It came
I
in
think it
late.
was supposed to come a little earlier than that, so that's probably
Quite a
why.
bit.
Oh, yeah, we never got it until like, May.
Well, I was just looking at the fuel supply, yet budgeted 10,000, it's 333, so it obviously wasn't on the road much.
No.
Unless it's a really good on fuel.
No.
Electric.
Yeah.
Really good.
Really
I
good.
think that's the one that we talked about, like, maybe a year ago,
Yeah.
September, and it's gonna come in.
I didn't,
That's the snow everywhere we talked about.
yeah, I know, the snow was gone when we got it here,
It was well gone. I
so.
was here the day it
Yeah,
came in.
remember, it was having.
Yeah, I had that too. Anything else? Oh, sure, Ron.
Just on a bucket truck,
Yeah.
we certainly get the value of it. But we don't- I know we've had this discussion.
Yeah,
tonight
no,
before,
it's,
but just,
we don't get the value of it at all. In fact, we have it on our surplus list. It's, not making us any money.
So is there a need for it, when we put up our Christmas
I
lights
think
here and we,
no, it'll be definitely cheaper to get rid of it and, hire that for the amount we use it, to hire it out.
and tree cutting, we won't do that much anymore, or anything like that.
Not that much, around the wires, we contracted it well this year, especially we contracted most of that out. Just, there's lots of trees to do, but no time to get our guys to do them.
So this is on a reserve, Brian, you're saying, but when does that become a reserve? You see, like, by this budget, the budget will keep it around for another year, or is that?
Well, it is on the surplus list, but we have to budget it, so that's ready to go, so.
So surplus meaning when that become,
We were planning on one this fall, but it didn't happen, so remember we did a surplus policy?
Yeah.
We just haven't had the time to do it, so
Okay.
it'll be in the spring after the snow flies.
So is the bucket
Stops
truck,
flying.
so is the bucket truck costing us money to have?
Yes.
so we would be, is there any comparison we can see it, with the cost of contractor coming in for the amount of times that we use it?
Yeah, we could, put something together.
Probably would be wise to do that, because I'm sure there's gonna be quite a bit of confidence in our community. As soon as that bucket truck is used, the Lions Club pull them up and their lights put up in their tree or something like that, and we say we don't have a bucket truck to do that.
Yeah, once you see the
And we
numbers,
used our operating budget for it, and so on and so on, so we better have some sort of comparison, so we can take a real strong look at it. And
we'll have something for you.
explain to the council and public why we don't need a bucket truck.
Okay.
And then that we do provide the service we already provide.
Might be a good idea to have a list of the services we provide.
Right. Now, and I guess on that, if we're giving to the Lions or whatever, we got lights, those are our lights, we have to, we have to maintain them, right? So when we say it's the Lions lights, I don't want people to think it's town lights.
That's right.
Yeah, it's in the Lions Park. I don't want people to think, oh, the Lions Club just can call up and get the bucket truck every time they want, because then I would have maybe somebody else. But I understand what you're saying.
I
but
bet, our community calls up and we
Yeah.
want their lights because we're having Christmas
Exactly.
this,
Yeah.
we have to have theirs.
Well, it's our responsibility, and I think, I totally agree with Councilor Elliott, we should have a good indication that something that we did similar to other things, it's better to contract certain things out.
see, the lights aren't working in Palmerston, they put them out and probably it's not plugged in or whatever. And now you have to call back the contractor to do that, could they come back that fast, or we can get our guys out right away, you know?
I've seen the numbers on it, and, also keep in mind our service truck for the new service truck coming in too, we can utilize that. It doesn't have a boom lift on it, but we still have the height,
Okay,
so,
Okay, for some stuff.
for some stuff, yeah.
okay, thanks.
Just further on that, it looks to me like that truck was budgeted to do about 800 hours of work, is that correct?
That's correct.
So that would be trimming trees and all those things that we don't have the manpower to do?
That's right. Changing lights, putting up Christmas lights.
So it really doesn't cost us $34,000. It's just that we budgeted that it would be do $34,000 worth of work.
The amount of maintenance on that truck, because there's so many testing that's involved to keep that truck on the road. Because it is an electrical utility vehicle, needs of course, there is testing that goes with that, costs us money to maintain it. When a vehicle sits around for a long period of time, something always goes wrong, so it's not being used the way it should be. But we will have a report.
Yep.
Coming from us.
Good. All right, any other questions on trucks? Okay, moving on. Oh, sorry.
Yeah, the
Okay.
sweeper, I thought it was gone.
It's on the list. That was
Okay.
the list that was supposed to go in fall.
Oh,
It's one of those
okay, because
surplus vehicles we,
I remember we contracted that sweeping out,
Yeah.
so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's still.
Part of it, we did it with our backhoe too, so, and it's working well.
Oh, with the new attachment on the John Deere.
Correct.
Right.
Yeah.
like for things, I think we did it for, when we had the thing,
Communities bloom.
Communities in Bloom, and then we had also did it for Heritage Days and I think over in Palmerston too, just,
Actually, we did it for the fall pickup too.
yeah, so that is worked really well, instead of, and we just do the big spring and the fall cleanups with the.
And the contracting, the availability of the people that are doing that has been good.
Yes,
They-
yeah, no problem.
Responded when we wanted them.
Very quickly, yeah.
Okay.
We did have some issues, but I mean, the issues were small. They really were. I mean, that's what you hear about.
Yeah.
You hear about you don't hear about the great job they did, you hear about the little spot where they missed. You know, I mean,
There was no-
the attachment on the front of the truck is much cheaper than a sweeper.
There's a lot of moving parts on it, so we have to maintain that.
All right, next is the road maintenance budget. Questions? Gary?
The comments made, the budget to actual, minimize overage for winter control, some maintenance areas in this budget were reduced.
Yeah, we saved some money out of the hard tops, maintenance program. Hopefully around 20,000, help cut down on winter blast and that.
But the overall budget is actually going up.
I think your trees for the ice
Trees
storms are
are
120,000, which you never budgeted for. That's the, so,
It was
Yeah.
bad year.
They've all blown down now, so not.
yeah, hopefully all that. Councilor Elliott is there, hopefully we're right on.
The funny part about it, there's still hangers up in the trees.
Yeah.
But you can't control Mother Nature either, so it's.
And also the issues for 2015 and beyond, you mentioned hydro rates, I'm just wondering what that has to do with, yes.
I don't know where that come from.
Is that a typo?
Rate
Issues for
issues.
2015 and beyond.
I don't rate costs.
Shouldn't have.
I think it's just a typo on that.
Yeah, that's a typo, and just, I think, what you're referring to,
Nothing like gas,
fuel.
fuel rate,
Fuel
thank you.
Fuel rates.
Those are electric trucks.
Yeah, we're going to electric.
I think when,
There's that bucket truck.
in the budget to actual section, what we're referring to is if you look at the actual for 2013, it's 139,251, so it's about not even half budget. So the idea was to not spend in that area if we can, to hopefully keep it, keep some surplus there. Overall, the budget's up marginally, but most of them are about the same. Very, very small increases or decreases in them, so it's up 42,000. It's mostly reallocation.
But even you've got the actual at 139, you still budgeted at 397. Is that right?
Yes, because this year we want to do some maintenance, and we're hoping we get site despite
So that other money went into reserves or went somewhere else then that we budgeted?
it'll sit there as an underage, and whereas when you get to winter control, you'll see it. So they offset each other.
Yeah, so winter control, we lost out on the 125,000 on the trees that we were anticipating.
Say like the actual September, what we have at the end of September, so some of it, maybe work in the summer, but hasn't got later even until September, so. I put a lot more faith in the actual 2012 or
And Gordon and I had this discussion, and it slays me from the day one 3 years ago, and when we were trying to get these budgets done, and Gordon said, we can't get them done until like April maybe, because it's hard to get the actuals. And I couldn't believe the people who work for the town, and they wait 6 months to bill you. I mean, I just did, so I think we're more due diligence on that, and we've been more. And just saying, like, these companies, get your bills in, we wanna know where we are, because how can we even do a budget if we have bills sliding in March and April next year for 2013? It's almost impossible, you wouldn't be able to run your business like that. And
I
so-
had one in April, I think it was in April, billing just came in.
Yeah, and so we're trying to identify where and our bigger ones, I mean, you're gonna get some small ones, but where the bigger ones are, and just go to the engineers and all the other people and say, like, get your bills in, because otherwise, how do we know? And this is what makes it very difficult to do it, but I know we're at half there, but again, and with a little bit of the hard top to be the fact that we had a pretty good deal on asphalt stuff this year.
Yeah, it helps us a little bit.
Because we had a few situations where I know the council knows we save money, because for some reason asphalt was down, touch wood, hopefully it stays down, but I don't know why, nobody needs to know why. I asked the county on that, they had no clue either.
No, it
So-
was a big saving,
They say it was huge.
yeah.
Anyways,
It was surprising. But, yeah, you gotta rub Peter and St. Paul thing between,
any more road maintenance? We're gonna get to winter maintenance right next. Okay, no, trailer park. If I missed it, winter maintenance in it? No, that's the next one's trailer park, right? Yeah, I got, well, that's 1046, 47, where's 1046? Or is that just gone? Okay. Trailer park, any issues on trailer park? No. They're going away, as we say.
the revenue is going down.
Yeah, the revenue's going down. We have two more to leave. They didn't get, unfortunately, gone. But they've been tagged and decommissioned and,
No rental revenue.
yeah, no rentals because they're sitting there. They'll be gone. So we'll be down to 5. That's good. Yep.
Looks to me like half of our revenue from trailer park goes into taxes.
Yeah, basically, the internal thing.
And they don't pay taxes. We lease the land to them and then
We're
we
the
pay.
landlord, they pay us water and sewer, and they pay us a monthly rental.
And that's basically stays the same year after year. We never, it's not a major
We
revenue
haven't,
maker anyway, I wouldn't expect.
it's a discussion to have, it's kind of difficult in this transition period there. As we're the landlord, we're bound by the landlord tenant act, so we can't do just what we want, but we could do 1.5 to 2.5% yearly after rental charges.
But we don't lose money on trailer park.
you know, we don't, because we don't spend a lot on it right now, and then, well, you know, if you're obviously paying for meters,
Yeah,
so
they're all.
we upgraded them.
So they all meters on water and everything, so. And in fairness, I mean, some of the people that are in the trailer parks are probably harder to need people that would be hard for them to pay more. I'm not sure that by adding 50% is gonna save us and probably hurt them more than us.
It's gotta be worth it for all the massive.
Okay. Anything else? Winter control, there we go. So this will give you an idea where some of that money went. Questions on winter control?
It's pretty much self-explanatory, the winter we had first of the year.
Yeah, I guess the only thing here is, and we can discuss it, but we can gamble that we're gonna have a, let's say in 2012, we were, 2012, we're under 117. We have a nice winter. We can always pray we have a better winter and cut this back a bit if you want. But what we're doing is looking at the worst case scenario, and we're picking up on that some $1,000 that we lost the trees, right? That's an area where we can look at. I mean, it depends how you want to do it. So that's something that we can have discussion on. There you go. We are moving it up. By 35,000. Okay, good. Next, is streetlights.
Cemetery,
Oh, sorry, I missed cemeteries? Okay, I must.
160.
You're right, 160 cemeteries. Okay,
I guess I have a question or comment. I try to follow the accounts that are accounts payable, and I see quite a fluctuation in charges per grade. I've seen it as low as 216 and as high as 760. And I'm just wondering, is that a service that if we can't provide it, should we tender that out? And is it a big enough account to be tendered out?
Maybe Gord can answer that better than I can.
So, we like the big ones?
No, digging graves.
digging graves,
Digging graves?
yeah.
What digging graves?
Do we do any at all ourselves?
Very, very, very seldom we get out there with our own backhoe and system. Usually we contract it, and it's up quite a bit this year, but,
Would that,
Is it the grave? I don't know.
well, I'm wondering if it would be the case, they just bill by the hour, so.
they bill by the hour, yeah.
So if we have somebody that has to spend more hours, because of why, though, that's what I guess you're asking.
Yeah, I don't,
be delicate in
Yeah.
some areas.
In some areas, it's been tough.
we have a lot of issues. I know in this new cremation area, in Harrison, for example. There's, I think we have 2.5 feet by 3 feet. And that's tight, and then,
That's the distance between plot, or the distance between coffins or plots, or?
yeah, that's the plots, if you don't have much room to work at all, then you get into the older cemetery. And then, we're running into problems when you got a 5-foot area for a coffin, and it just doesn't work. So you gotta move it over or find another place. And we've had a few issues this year.
I'm wondering too, like, I know we've had some issues where, would we have equipment sitting out there because we had to wait to make decisions? Because I know that's why we have a $5,000 mapping budget in there, because I know in Clifford, we had a couple situations, pretty stressful for the families, but we weren't sure if we could put them, we've talked about that at different things, and if you're renting somebody to be out there, you're gonna pay him by the hour, whether he's Doug digs or not, I would imagine. I don't know, but I mean, we could look into that. That's a good point Terry makes. But they get paid by the hour, right?
So if they're sitting there for 2 hours because we haven't been able to make them dig,
No,
did you see many of them, Terry? I just,
Well, every month there are
There's
some.
different ones.
Yeah, that's sort of, okay.
I think, a mapping, an updated mapping, and GPS maybe on our, as we're going ahead with it, would help tremendously.
So we're gonna do that for all cemeteries, or just one at a time, or how's that work?
Well, it's probably a good idea to have one at a time.
And who does, do we hire someone to do that, or is that internal?
Yeah, no, it costs them.
I would think that probably Clifford is their
It's a
biggest
problem.
concern.
That's the big one.
Because in fairness, I would hate, I had some calls, I'm sure people on this council had calls. And when you have people that are, it's a tough time when you got the stress already, that you're sitting there worried whether your loved one can be put beside your mother or father. And I would say it's well worth the money to do it. And again, it goes back to cemeteries. This is another thing, unfortunately, we've got a fairly good set of reserves, but because interest rates are so low, our maintenance costs aren't covered anymore, because even though we've got reserves, we can't spend the reserve money, the principal, we only use the interest rate for it.
And it's actually more than a reserve, it's a trust fund, so
Right.
they're very limited, and we transfer over the money, and as the mayor says, we keep adding to that, and it's well over 300,000, and then bringing across 11 or 12,000.
That's why we've been going the wrong way.
You know, when we get 150,000 rates or higher, so.
So that's a bit of a problem that we run into.
But it is, relevant. Procedure to
And the staff spends a lot of time in the office before they go out,
try to figure out.
and even then, they're not real confident.
So what, any idea what it would cost on that, GPS one?
Not off the top of my head.
Put 5,000 in the budget.
Yeah, for a start.
First up.
5,000 is probably nowhere near enough. But it's in the operating, so you have 5,000 each year.
Right.
If there's one area you might want to increase, because I don't want to promise you that 5,000 is going to eliminate all the issues you're saying. That would be one area where you might want to increase.
Is there a possibility, Bill, of getting some kind of staff report before the January, before we have to, we're January, February, before we have to finalize this, but maybe it's something we could look at.
Sure, we can do that.
is that fair to everybody?
Yeah, just another question to go along with that, like, would that be a tendered process, or do we go, it's such a limited probably number of people that do that, do we have any idea what that would cost?
The under 20.
Yeah, it's, we wouldn't tender it, but we would try and find 3 quotes.
Quotes.
Yeah, and do we have any idea what that ballpark figure would be? Because I think, I agree, I think this has to be done sooner than later.
We'll have to report to you on it.
For January.
But I can assure you that 5,000 will not do.
No.
That it would start. That's all.
Councilor.
Maintenance, grass cutting. Is that like 40,000 I'm seeing here? Grounds maintenance, that would be, page 205. Not one that's,
Yep.
so that's, we pay $40,000 to cut our.
That's part of the tender price.
Part of it? Is that it?
Yeah, that's just part of the whole tender.
40,000 covers all.
That's-
That's all 3 cemeteries.
Oh, 3 cemeteries.
Yeah, that's all, not just one.
Yeah, that's 3 cemeteries. Okay. Is there any thoughts that we could do cheaper? I know Ron's always been.
You bet, that's a passion of mine.
I know it's bad for Ron's, but I can guarantee you that it's not cheaper to hire help.
Okay.
Number one, you need, 3 employees to do that. Take them all to do it. Then you got each employee, and then on top of that, you gotta maintain your equipment, right? So,
Is that all,
I think
is that the
I
training, give you all the training and such like too with that? With the $40,000.
oh yeah, that's
Oh,
all.
it's all
Yeah.
training.
It's, once the numbers get together and we have a report coming, you'll see.
It's true, but I've done my research as well, and I know, like, I'll use Arthur Cemetery as an example. They hired a retired county worker that does that cemetery, and I have yet to get the figure on what it costs them for him, but it's one person does that. And that place is immaculate. It's unbelievable how it's a showpiece almost. And I realize you don't necessarily have to have it as a showpiece, but I think we have to improve the situation that it is now.
You're not happy with the restaurant?
Have we had complaints about that?
Very normal.
Because I
In
think,
fact, I haven't had one this year. I don't know if anybody else has.
Just verbal to me.
Yeah, I had some initially when I first started here, but not many since, but the grass tender's coming back to your next council meeting.
Yeah.
And in that, as Brian said, we'll outline what we think it costs to do each cemetery. We believe it'd be one student per cemetery would take the five.
Yeah.
Plus a lot more for
Yes. And then they need the equipment, but we'll lay those costs out for you, so you have that.
Appreciate that.
And you can see what the bids have come in and what they would charge you. But if you look there, where it's, the actual 42,000 roughly, so.
Yeah.
It's pretty close to that. So can you get all the equipment you need and maintain it, sustain it with the kids that aren't available necessarily all the time. So, but we can look at options, but we'll explain it more for you. At this point, we've tendered them out, and that's the expense there.
Yeah, I'll sure appreciate the information.
Yeah.
Well, maybe
And I'll have more as well.
you'll maybe have that number.
You bet. I'll
And
have
you
that
know,
as well.
My grandfather cut the cemetery in Palmerston for many, many years. He was 70 years old, and he used to walk out and cut it by hand at Palmerston Cemetery. But he dedicated his life to it. I mean,
That's right.
unfortunately, those are hard people to find. And, and maybe the chaplain Arthur, he, as far as the dollars and cents thing, I'm sure he's probably putting more into it than he actually gets paid. But it's probably something that he has a passion for.
Yeah.
Right? Sure, it's tough sometimes when we're doing that.
And as I say, I don't want to minimize my spectrum of people to employ in that respect to students.
Yeah.
Students are a great investment because if we employ them, they might come back to work for the town or work and live in the town.
In fact, we had a little discussion at the department head meeting today, and just around the table, we figured we employ 32 students
Yeah, that's awesome.
in all the different departments with recreation and public works and everybody else. So, and that's great. And I totally agree with that. I mean, it gives us an opportunity to see how they work. And we even, some of them come back and work for us after the,
Took it, man.
yeah.
Perfect example.
Street lights next. Street lights. Anybody? Street lights? And you want to talk to Hydro Heads on street lights.
on everything.
Well, because they just got the new rates, right?
Yeah, same as usual, not perfectly clear how those rates are calculated. And then I guess it's a pretty intense here, probably a bunch of emails, something I think council said that we should look at it as a whole. Really, I can argue both sides of this. We can't afford it, but and we should wait till we get that information, and then the salesman will say, yes, but why are you waiting, you're not saving that. But
Yeah.
ultimately, I encourage you to.
And then I'll throw another little wrinkle into it that there's a possibility West Terry might take on street lights. Because they're looking for different revenue streams and everything. Not saying it'll be any cheaper, it probably won't be, so. But at the same token, we might be in a situation, who knows? I mean, so that, it is a tough one.
It's a hot technology topic.
Yeah, with the solar panels we put up around too, this should come down also, should it not?
I don't think it will affect streetlights.
Well, it does not, but I'm just saying, that money is we're gonna get back from that if we go towards.
Yeah, well, that's an extra revenue for sure.
Wayne was, in one conference yesterday, looking into the LED.
Okay. So we expect a report back on that sometime.
I'm sure there's going to be out there for it shortly.
Right now, there's no grants for LEDs, I don't think. I thought was, something they're talking about, so this, you're right, Rick, there might be something coming down the pipe.
Have they refined it to the point where they're at the top, and, it's feasible?
If you ever talk to the salesman, they're great, I can tell you. We've all probably had that.
Yeah, the last discussion was like, say your HCTV or something like that. They say they're like maybe 80% of the way, and there are further refinements to come, but it's like a curve, and then you see these things, yes, they did not.
So,
They dropped.
Until the next time.
Yeah.
They're becoming more efficient all the time, you get into the limitations of physics.
how much more can they get? Yeah.
Yeah, what, is there a downside to LED? I'm just going by the
Intense.
fellow, on the 10th that puts up, gotta be 5 acres of Christmas lights. And he was telling me that his operating cost went from, something like $18,000 for the Christmas season down to about $1,000.
That's pretty good. That's a lot of lights.
Oh,
Yeah, unfortunately,
what's that?
there's no way it can go from 18,000 to 1,000.
Well, I don't know that. I'm just going by, I'm just relaying the information he gave me. Maybe the rats like somebody from across the road.
I know when I was up in Horseshoe, there was a shop at Eaton Mills, Ant Mills, that had this big display, and he was interviewed one time, and before they went to the digital meters, and he said, all I can tell you is, my meter, when you see that thing spinning, I can cut meat on it. This is spinning that fast when I got the lights on. So I don't know what that cost, but I thought that was just a hoot of a comment. Cut meat on it. Anyways, street lights, no more, very good. Water treatment and distribution.
Any questions?
Zero base.
Good. Moving on. What we got left?
Any street distribution?
All right, street treatment and distribution, oh, I got the street. Okay. I'm finding them, any questions?
That should be it, right?
Nope.
Nothing, zero.
Okay. That's it, Brian, I think for you.
Yeah, that's it for you, buddy.
You're
fired.
One more.
It's too bad you had one, what's that? Hopefully, Edwards. Hopefully, you can get it.
Yeah, 1088.
Great.
Turn we need a new truck.
Yeah.
Not showing.
Very good. Okay, community blue. Question?
I don't have a question, I'll just make a comment at the Minto Valley Conservation meeting last week, the mayor of Cottage, who's Deb Schufel, was at the presentation in Ottawa or wherever it was for communities in bloom, and he made the comment that it was really impressive what they had to say about this municipality. And it was unfortunate that we didn't have anybody there, but that's in retrospect. But the image that was created for this municipality was, he said it was outstanding. So that has nothing to do with what we're doing here, but I think it's important that that message get out. And I'll probably mention it at council next week again, but.
Yeah, and you know, as we did win some awards, and I'd just like to say, unfortunately, we couldn't send anybody. I thought about going, but I was away at the time and couldn't actually send anybody. But and they don't tell you whether you won or not, so you don't know whether you're going to be there. So it's a long travel up to
You just
Ottawa.
be fiscally responsible.
Physically responsible, yeah. But the other thing was, when we had an opportunity to be with the judges and both Mandy, myself, and Gord, I can tell you, Deputy Mayor Fisk, they were very impressed with a lot of things in the community, and the community spirit was the big thing, the volunteerism, the fact that it was clean, like, and I guess we take those things for granted, and we, you know, we pick up on, as you say, Councilor Frick, we pick up on the little negatives sometimes, so we don't hear the big positives, and in this case, definitely they're from 4 sets of eyes going out there and looking at it with a critical eye, and we passed with flying colors, and I give the staff a lot of credit for that, and the community groups that are involved. I was at the Rural Culture Society the other day, and you know, they do a yeoman's work for a few dollars that we give them, and I hope we can do a little bit more for them in the future, but because they are needing some cash and stuff like that. But basically, yeah, I think we've got a pretty good product here for what we pay. Okay, anything else on any blues? Welcome. There's your pen, there's your booklets there. You can sit at the nice table if you want. You're all by yourself there.
I'm used to my little
All
chair
right,
here.
okay.
Thank you.
We just went through Public Works. We just finished Public Works, and we're getting on for the, who's next? We're going back to the start. You want to go right back to the start, I guess.
40% increase in money.
The chairman's fault.
We're going back to the front, and we're gonna go to general administration.
Mayor Bridge, the recommended budget should be 276,620.
27.
That's at the bottom of your cover sheet.
Yeah, I was gonna mention that. 277,620.
276,620.
Yes, yeah, same up top.
We're good.
Yeah, gotcha. Okay. Questions?
With respect to preparation for the election, does that mean in the future, maybe every year we'll set aside a few dollars so that it isn't all in one year? Is that the plan?
Yes, that's the idea. Last year we put 2,000, I think. This year we got the balance, so.
Yeah, we didn't start the last year.
Okay, so we'll have to, next year we'll start.
Okay. Anything else? Okay, next section. Oh, sorry, Ron.
Just, I know it might be to do with Brian Hanson, but I think it's to do with all our council budgets. I think the administration is the proper place. We are coming up towards the Pride March. Are we starting to prepare some kind of finances throughout our budget for increases in things that we have to do to spruce our community or fix roads or whatever we have to do?
Not in operating directly. I think we'll see where we are with roads when we get to the roads capital. As you know, we're a lot wiser than we were a week ago. So, yeah, not yet, because I still don't think that we have a good enough handle exactly what's going to need with the corporation of the town of Minto here. But hopefully by January, if there is anything, I think we can one site meeting and maybe another one before our capital budget.
Did you want to talk to that, Ron?
Sure, if I could. Thanks, Councilor Elliott. And we'll also be meeting with the county because they have allocated $100,000 per year. And so we don't know what's all involved in that and what that can go for. I'm assuming that's going to go to their expenses towards buying that, as well as assistance with infrastructure, roads and culverts and access from the roads into the site. So as Gord says, January we'll know a lot more.
And it will fall under property capital and try to get some money put aside.
I just thought we should be looking
Yeah.
at putting some money aside this year somewhere.
Yeah.
Somewhere there'll be wages and there'll be roads and there'll be all kinds of things. We've got to deal with.
Some of the stuff can be, depending on what it is, can be built back to by rail transit from Minto.
Makes sense.
It Well, that may be part of our contribution, is what I'm saying.
Yeah.
At least that's what you're saying, yeah.
Exactly.
So depending on what, and once we know a bit more what the work is, like I don't know how much Terry will have to do and other people, he'll have a better idea getting closer to where we're at. And next one up is administration.
Treasury.
Treasury.
And everything doesn't for everything else.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, Treasury has a line. Questions? Okay. Moving on. Administration. And council.
Increase.
Yeah, we walked more than 3 cents, didn't we?
Well, can I make a recommendation? One-time offer to the council for $25,000 bonus for us. Great job we've been doing. I'm not running for re-election, but.
Except you just declared that. Pretty well. On television. Okay, well, you got a breakdown there, and we're not sure, we might be a little bit below budget this year, maybe, when we're all said and done. Appreciate everybody giving their expenses in. I think most people have got them in for November now, if not, try to get them in by the end of November, so we, the council come into. Okay, all right. There's a breakdown there, so anyway, moving on. Any more facilities and recruitment? Okay. People and property.
Just a comment, we've talked about improving the mapping, the floodplain mapping and whatnot. Where would that fit in? Would it fit in here, or is there another spot in the budget that could address that?
We had, I think it was in the last year, if not the last 2 years, in the capital budget for here,
Okay.
but
Yeah,
it
it's kind of-
never happened yet, so
But,
we'll probably budget it again next year.
and I think we've sort of got plans for, we've talked to Tritons about doing it possibly, right?
Yeah, and that brings to mind, I think one time we discussed under that same thing, removal of the bridge, I guess the old railway crossing, like where is it situated?
Well, that's what this plan would,
We'll put a figure in the capital budget for you.
Okay.
We met once with the conservation authority and our consulting engineer. And what we need to do is get a 3D profile of Harrison in order to accurately map it using current technologies. There was a company that used to be able to fly a drone that would do that. Unfortunately, they're not allowed to fly a drone anymore. So, for whatever reason, so now we're looking at a different way of trying to get that third dimension. So that will be coming back to you. We'll have a figure for you at the January budget. But the idea is to have a more accurate floodplain, given the fact that there's several bridges that are no longer there or changed. And what that means and where we are in terms of Harrison.
And if I could, the county, I believe, is in 2014 going to replace the 87 bridge, Highway 87 bridge, out by Von Westerholtz and John Richardson. I believe that's on there, something for, and since we've done the Arthur Street Bridge and the Blind Line Bridge and the culverts on Side Road 1, I think it has just increased the advantages to Harrison by huge percentages.
The Lower Street Bridge.
And the Lower Street Bridge as well.
Possibly even the Young Street Bridge. Wasn't that true?
Yes, that's right. And so once I think the trailer park is more accessible for us to improve that area as well, I think it's going to be a huge advantage for the town.
let's hope, and I think it's overdue that we get that reporting done, so, yeah, we'll make sure we can get her done this year. And we have a bit of money in there for trees. Initiative, and maybe there's other monies available, we found it the other day. Oh, fire. He's on fire, he's right up there, look at that. Step back, Chris. Go ahead. We have a fire, the fire, now we have an overall. Overall, how do you want to do this? Because you want to go through the individuals first and then the overall, or?
I'd rather start with the overall.
Okay, we'll do the overall. Overall first?
It's the most important.
Okay, any questions on it?
I guess perhaps an explanation, I think I understand, but I think an explanation of that, fire inspector, expenditure, because, lots of people, we're gonna get questions on that one for sure.
Yeah, okay, two things with that. What we're proposing is just to put some money in there to have 1 day a week help in the fire inspections. Part of my role on the board is to sit on the chair of the legislative committee, so I know there is a lot of changes coming down for January 1st. When it comes to inspections of care facilities, long-term care, retirement homes, and that type of thing. So it's a good thing that way because I know what's coming. I helped write a lot of it, so I know what's coming. They're going to be there. So it's kind of planning for that. There's a lot of municipalities scrambling right now to find help and do that kind of stuff. I've been called this week by a couple asking if they were interested in sharing inspectors or doing stuff and jointly. And I told them, I said, I have no idea, because this is where we're starting with 1 day a week to see. Comparative wise, Wellington North has hired a full-time fire chief last year, and they have an inspector 3 days a week. Mapleton's also got in their budget to hire 1 day a week person. North Perth has somebody full-time, 5 days a week that does it. So they're everybody's, that's the comparisons just around us of what staffing, what everybody has. As you can see, it makes a difference of about operating with overall, so I'm sorry, overall $10,000. But there's some money that we've been shifting around. If you went through each station, we've shifted some of the other stations into here to help offset that. And so different reorganizations that we're doing internally that will put money towards this to lessen the burden of that.
Okay.
So do we have someone that's currently a firefighter that is qualified or working towards this fire inspection role?
Yeah, there's one individual that has 2 courses left and he'll be a certified fire inspector. So he's been at it for about 8 years now, at least 8 years.
And how long to do the 2 courses that he needs yet?
Next year, if he gets enrolled in them, then he can get them done.
So is he likely to be moving on as a full-time fire inspector somewhere else, or are we going to be able to keep him here as our fire inspector?
That's a good question. Depends. It depends. Like if somebody like that went to there's lots of postings in full-time departments. If they went there, they can make a lot more money than what small town Ontario can pay. But this individual is homegrown and born and raised and might be willing to stay on.
Well, I think we as a council and as a municipality should make him aware of the fact that we would like him to be our fire inspector, I think, in the future. And whether we have agreements with other municipalities, I think it wouldn't be long that it could be a full-time job, just, in the area.
I got the ideal situation, Mayor, that if we sure could accommodate him here, and like you said, a couple of other communities, keep him 5 days a week, full time. And like Chris is saying, he's a homeboy, and
we have a lot of staff that stay here for that very reason, and we need to encourage that. And if there's any chance that that's his plan, then we need to make sure that he understands that that's what we want, and it's important to us that we have access to that or have first right of refusal, whatever this term is. But what you're telling us here is all municipalities around here are looking for somebody for a day a week or whatever. And we do something similar with our building official and that staff. I don't see why we couldn't do that. So I think we need to encourage and make sure that we do what we can to get this individual trained and then hopefully retain them. of her.
I 100% agree with you, and I've had conversation with him already. He knows this is in the budget to get that ball rolling. I can't agree with you more that we've invested this much money. I look at it from that aspect, and I've invested this much money on the individual. I want to try and keep them, and I'm quite confident that we can. So that's one of my plans, but as I said, this is just the first step to see what council's opinion is on the 1 day a week that I have built in here as a starting process. But yeah, I agree. We don't want to invest money in our people and have, train them for somebody else. So I agree with that.
And I think I can speak around the council table at the county level with the mayors. This is a problem everybody's got right now, and I think we're trying to share because that makes a lot of sense. I don't think anybody, maybe Center Wellington, can afford to have a full-time one because they've got, 200 more people, but certainly from our standpoint, it'd be nice if we could share, and maybe that's a situation for our person too, but I think you're going in the right direction by having this in here because it's gonna be needed, and as we go forward, hopefully that can work out, with this, but I know with the other person that we might use right away, same situation, right? They basically are sharing right now, they're local and they're going back and forth to 2 or 3 municipalities. But I think by the time you get 7 municipalities other than Center Wellington, so 6, there's probably gonna be room for that shared usage out there. Maybe there are a couple people that could end up sharing, 6 towns.
I agree, and there's lots of opportunities outside the county also that municipalities that have come to us and talked, so this is a baby step towards it, so.
Any other questions? I just want to say, Chris, at a budget of $819,000, people look at that and they think, wow, that's a lot of money, but we've got 85 firemen, we've got 3 fire halls, and that works out to less than $100 a resident. I think that's a pretty dang good deal, and I think you guys have done a good job on the fire department to keep it reasonable. Thank you.
Thank you. So the reason that I wanted to, overall look at individuals is the administration looks like a lot more, but I've taken the money from the departments and put in it. So overall, we're only at 10. It's just reallocating the administration budgets up a bit, but some of the other stations are down. So that's where the appearance is.
Chief, why is the Harrison Hall twice as much as Palmerston?
Because we had no fire protection agreements for Harrison. We have a huge revenue stream from Palmerston from Roydsburg, and how it pays us to cover part of their conflict. So it's reflected in the 2 budgets. That's why, as I said, that's why I like the overall, because it gives you a better reflection than each hall. So.
Throughout these various budget pages, every station has 0 for training. I'm assuming it's somewhere else in the budget, is it?
It's in administration. There's, in the administration, I think it's $60,000 as a training. Again, each year I'm able to incorporate more into the administration budget because it's very difficult, time consuming to break out. The bills come in, and so if it's a $5,000 training bill for a course, well, 2,000 goes here and 1,500 goes here. So it's just easier if we say this course cost us $5,000 to put on, it goes out of one budget. So it's all in the administration budget.
So it comes out, I think in the line there too, because it's under wages and salaries also. It covers a lot of the training. That's what it's billed at, or not.
Some of it, yeah. So the wages that they go to the courses comes out of
So
the training.
percentage of that too, Terry, is trained for the side of things.
Only the Palmerston.
The other 2 are different.
No comment.
Just to let you know, the calls there, it's close to 60 now. Today.
Yeah, those calls when I submitted it was, I think that was the end of September. Was the calls, so doesn't include October.
Chris, with the training too, because of the fact that if you happen to, the way you do your training, if you happen to miss training in Palmerston and it's the same trainings in Harrison, you can pop over there and do it? Or is that what you're talking about with salaries? Right?
The way that so regular practices are taken out of the wages and
Practices.
out of their station. The training that you see is when we bring in third-party training courses, or we offer, for example, if we offer a pump operations course, so we train 10 to 12 people.
Right.
It's a 2-weekend course. We bring in instructors, and that it costs us between $7,500 and $10,000 to put that course on, because it's,
Yeah.
you know, just equipment and all that stuff. So that comes out of training. The training sessions that they have at their halls twice a month, comes out of each hall's wages budget, because that's part of their wages.
Right, the wages, okay. Yeah, okay, makes sense.
Thanks, Average in the few years that I've been involved with the fire service, Chris, you and your group that really brought this fire service along. I remember 10 years ago going to our fire service meetings. It wasn't pretty soon. But I mean, I know that you're shifting things around, moving different allocations into the administration part of this, and I think it's really good, and I congratulate you for it. I mean, you talk to some of the firemen, and there's quite a few firemen, and all of these guys, 85, and you know, they can't say enough good things about the training and the good things that we're doing in the fire. So congratulations.
Thank you, appreciate that.
And, you know, just to add to that, too, the guys who do that, Chris and myself, like running the station, we always ask the guys, if they want to raise, and nobody ever wants to raise. No, seriously, they're happy with what we're paying them, what they're getting. And I think the majority of the guys are doing it for the community. They'd like probably a better tax break on a little bit of money they do make, but like I said, you know, the guys would never come down the door, well, Chris, if you don't confirm it, you know, ask for it, because there's some communities around here that are making, I'm gonna say, some pretty good dollars, whereas our guys are content with what they're getting, so like kudos to the 85 guys we have in Minto.
Anything else?